So I'm not really concerned about the number one overall seed, but I am concerned getting that one seed in the West. Not too concerned about number one in the East. And the Spurs.
You lost him too, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Looks like he's reconnecting.
The rest of the way, I would say you're prioritizing.
Brandon.
Unbelievable.
Brandon,
Am I gone?
you thought you were just reconnecting, but
I was cooking, guys. And I said a bunch of other cool stuff. Just let your imagination run wild and think about all the coolest things I could have said.
welcome to the Daily Thunder podcast. I am your host today, Cray Allred, editor-in-chief of the site, and I'm joined by our beat writer, Brandon Rahbar. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, happy to be on the pod tonight. I think the timing of this was perfect because we were coming off what I think was maybe the most impressive win of the Thunder season. And it's right before a road trip against the Raptors and Pistons where the Thunder are going to be without a bunch of their guys. So this was threading the needle perfectly for a pod.
Yeah, okay. So it's been a good couple of games, and Brandon is just locked and loaded for the road trip. We've also got Ryan Woods. Welcome back. It's been a couple weeks.
Thank you for having me on your program. Pleasure to be here.
Anytime. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but we went into the All-Star break kind of down. You know, of course, Shai getting injured before the break, Jalen Williams getting re-injured, AJ Mitchell. You know, it's been an injury-plagued season, but I think a lot of us, myself included, thought that coming out of the break, most of those guys would be kind of healed up, and that was just kind of a nice, kind of convenient rest spot to coast through. But no, they're all still hurt and out for at least the next handful of games as well. But the Thunder are doing well, and even before the break, they've actually won 4 of their last 5, and those last 2. So, Ryan, I'll kick it to you. What's your biggest takeaway from this stretch, especially the last 2 games with the Thunder just coming out of the All-Star break and doing just fine without their MVP?
Yeah, doing just fine is a good way to put it. I was going back earlier trying to remember the last loss because it hasn't felt like they're on a winning streak given the news and the updates. They've been a little bit more disappointing than anything, and I was like, wow, they've won several of their last games. I don't know why. I just had it in my head that they've taken a loss more recently than they have. But the injury news seems to have just put a damper on things. But yes, like Brandon was saying, yesterday was just incredibly impressive and much needed, very much needed. So yeah, good look. The Brooklyn game didn't start all that strong, but they did enough to win that game, and then I think they surprised all of us yesterday.
Yeah, how did you rank that? One of their top quality wins, Brandon? Maybe the top quality win?
Yeah, I would say that was their best win of the season. Like, I kind of went through after that win yesterday, and I tried to figure out, like, okay, was that the best win of the Thunder season? And kind of the candidates that I came up with, I thought that road Grizzlies win without, Shai, Chet, Case and Wallace. There's a bunch of guys out, and it was the best J-Dub game. It was that game where J-Dub brought him back from 21 down to win. They were down 11 points with 3.5 minutes to go. That was on the road. I thought that opening night win, because it was double overtime and because they needed to win on opening night because of the ring ceremony, that was a clutch win. That Nuggets win, just because, they'd probably had their worst stretch of the season and beating who everybody considered the other best team by double digits on the road was big. And then that Spurs win, because the Spurs had won 3 in a row against the Thunder before that. That was big. All that said, I think that beating the Cavs without Shai, J-Dub, AJ Mitchell, or Alex Caruso, the Cavs have won 7 in a row, 12 of their last 13. They were undefeated with James Harden. I I was so impressed. And I was probably most impressed because they lost the lead. Like, you could say, okay, well, they got off to a hot start because of the shooting and because of the turnovers. That was not sustainable. And that's true. But they lost the lead early in the third quarter, and yet they pushed back again and ended up winning it. I do think it was probably the most impressive win of the season.
So I definitely consider it maybe the most encouraging win of the season. Although it's, of course, not encouraging when Shai's hurt, but I felt like it was a game full of playoff moments, with the home crowd and so many role players stepping up and playing above their heads. It felt like the minutes when Shai has to rest in the playoffs to me, only for, huge stretches of the game. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Ryan, Twitter tried to tell us earlier in the year that the Thunder are a number 1 seed without Shai, and that's why he's, shouldn't be a serious MVP candidate. So are they really just fine? Are they really this good? And, that he can just take however many weeks off he wants? What's going on?
First of all, link me to those receipts because I didn't see that. This team needs Shai for sure. Sooner rather than later. The schedule does get relatively tough. They've got some difficult games coming up. Toronto, they lost to Toronto at home. They could really use the game tomorrow night on the road before they go to Detroit. Detroit lost tonight at home to San Antonio. So they're going to be looking to get a win in their next night or in their next game. So yeah, they need Shai back. They need AJ back. They need ball handlers bad. I thought yesterday they did exactly what they needed to do. They needed to light it up from the 3-point line to stay in that game, and they did enough. I thought probably the most impressive thing yesterday was that they gave up the lead that they started the game with and still closed. Still came out with the win after giving up the lead. So I was super impressed. But yes, this team is incredibly talented and really deep. I think it's a little deeper than a lot of people realize. But this team needs their MVP bad.
Yeah, for sure. And so all jokes aside, we do expect Shai and J-Dub and AJ Mitchell to be back in the next 1 to 2 weeks, hopefully based on the reevaluation timeline that the Thunder have given. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about the Thunder's actual health? Like, just, are they going to be healthy for the postseason? Brandon.
As far as that goes, I mean, I don't think you could give it just a 1 because they've been injured all season long. And, especially the J-Dub injury because hamstrings are so tricky. And, he's looking so good. He's looking more like himself more each game right before he retweaked it. And I assume that's why they're going to be incredibly cautious with the J-Dub injury. All that said, I do think that they've been conservative with injuries. None of these are supposed to be long-term injuries. They've been very cautious purposely so that they can be healthy going into the playoffs. So I would say like a 4. And the 4 is just because they've been injured all season and hamstrings are tricky and they can flare up again. But I do think that the goal all along has been to be healthy for the playoffs. They got Topic back. And, J-Dub is supposed to be 2 weeks reevaluation. We're about, 5 days into that or whatever it is. But Shai and AJ should be back soon. Maybe before that Nuggets game. Some people are saying before the Pistons game. I don't think so. But could be very well before that Nuggets game. Hopefully both or one of them is back. So long term, I think they're going to be good. I only put it at a 4 because that hamstring injury, I would say.
Agreed that the hamstring, the second we felt better about the wrist for a moment, the hamstring is what we have to worry about on top of that the rest of the way. Ryan, what about you? 1 to 10, how worried are you about the Thunder's health?
Yeah, I think 4 is a good number, 4 or 5. The hamstring is so re-injurable that I don't mind the caution. I don't know if we've talked about it, if this group has talked about it. But I was surprised that they brought Jada back before the All-Star break, um, because of that exact thing. Like, I thought they might just buy him an instant, another 9 days, I think is what it would have been. So they clearly felt good about where he was, which I guess um, there's some encouragement in that they feel like it's not super serious. I don't think they would have put him out there if they didn't feel he was like a full go. And I think they were proven right in that that was one of the performances of the year for Oklahoma City. That Jalen second half, and leading up to the injury, had missed a shot in like an hour and a half. It was an incredible performance, and I think all systems were go. Especially like you mentioned, the wrist looked like it wasn't a burden as he went along, even though he was taking hits and all of that. So I think they'll probably give him a little bit extra time, which is okay. But that's like Brandon said, that the hamstring is why that number's where it's at, because like we're looking at Hardenstein back out there, and I think that's a really encouraging sign that he's dealing with a soft tissue thing as well. And knock on wood, he's looked really good as of late. I thought he was super impactful on both ends yesterday. Just a huge reason why they were able to create the looks from three that they got yesterday, and then defending a really strong front line of Cleveland. Thought he was great. So there is some encouragement despite the amount of names on the injury report right now. I've been very impressed with Hardenstein. So hopefully J-Dub can get back and is a full go, and they don't have any more flare-ups with that hamstring.
Yeah, I'm at like 7 or 8, but that's mainly because it's about all I think there is to worry about. This sounds extremely cocky, but the Thunder's health is basically priority 1, 2, and 3 as far as what I think needs to go well the rest of the way for them to repeat. So for any, to me, that is just the hazard, and especially, how important J-Dub is and how little Jalen's been able to even play this year, and get comfortable and feel like himself again. So not that I don't have confidence in all the players that they're rested and healthy game one of the playoffs to acclimate very quickly and be fine. But to me, it is like the thing to worry about. Related, I'm with you, Brandon. I think the Thunder have been conservative, although Ryan, nod to your point that maybe not the most as conservative as they could be with a natural break, a convenient break around the corner with the All-Star game before J-Dub came back from that hammy. But what about home court advantage? So if the idea is they're being extremely cautious and conservative, resting the players for the sake of being there in the playoffs, but there are some teams nipping at their heels, Detroit for the overall home court advantage, and of course the Spurs really tearing it up at the number 2 spot in the West. So Brandon, what about home court advantage?
I'd say like 9 out of 10 as far as home court advantage goes. Here's why. The Thunder have a really, really tough end of season schedule. I mean, like if you look at their schedule, there's not a lot of tanking teams left, and they're going to be playing a lot of teams that are still, working for playoff seeding and positioning and all those things. A lot of teams that are still going to want to knock the champs off. And the Spurs do have an easier schedule. They don't have an easy schedule by any means. And I think it's important to get the 1 seed because you don't want to fall into that 2 seed and have to play both the Nuggets and the Spurs. And by the way, the Spurs would be on the road in that scenario in the Western Conference Finals. So I think you do want the 1 seed. I honestly, like if I were to say as far as Detroit goes, I'm not worried about Detroit and the overall number 1 seed really at all. Only because that's to me like a cross that bridge when you get to it type of thing. Obviously, the Thunder having home court advantage all throughout the playoffs last year was big in the Indiana series. It was big in the Denver series. But I'm not convinced the Pistons will come out of the East. They very well could, but I think it could also be the Cavs. I think it could be the Celtics. I could think it could be, probably not be, the Knicks. So I'm not really concerned about the number one overall seed, but I am concerned about the number one seed in the West, and the Spurs schedule is easier and they're healthy right now, whereas the Thunder got a tough schedule and we don't know yet when Shea, AJ Mitchell, and Jalen Williams will be back. And right now they only have a 2.5 game lead over the Spurs. They only have a game lead in the loss column over the Spurs, and the Spurs have the tiebreaker. So yeah, I would put that one pretty high. I would think, to me, there's two priorities if I'm the Thunder going forward. And I'm not saying they agree with me whatsoever. I don't have any sort of, intel. This is just me. If I was the Thunder, I would prioritize the number one seed, and I would try to make sure that Shea plays enough games to get MVP, because that's pretty cool. It's a very, 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 very small group of players who have won back-to-back MVPs, and what that does for legacy is pretty big time. So,
and to clarify, I do think home court advantage is very much at risk. I'm just personally not, and maybe it's because I quickly became resigned to losing it when I found out Shea wasn't gonna come right back after the break. But yeah, to me, I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm cocky, but the full Thunder roster, fully healthy, I feel is very capable on the road against whoever's in front of them. Ryan, what about you? What is your alarm level with the prospect of losing home court advantage?
Yeah, I'm with Brandon, like 9 out of 10, and mainly in the West. Again, same reasons he mentioned. Like Detroit, if they make the finals, like we'll go to Detroit. But I think there are stronger teams, just a couple in the East. But even if they get there, like it is what it is. I think it's way more important, given how the year has gone for the Thunder against San Antonio, to have 4 home games potentially against them. And so yeah, that's the main focus for me is, do they win enough games to overcome not having the tiebreaker? And they need guys back ASAP if they're going to do it, because the schedule for the Spurs just isn't near as tough, and they're healthy. They're playing really well. They've won 9 in a row. It like just a perfect storm of like injuries to the Thunder when they happened, coinciding with a really soft part of the schedule for San Antonio. It seemed like they were playing a team they simply couldn't lose to for a couple weeks there in a row. So, and they're just playing really well. They're very good. And I think, I almost think home court's necessary against that team, to beat them. Not that Oklahoma City can't win a game on the road, but this organization has had many battles in San Antonio in the playoffs, and it's just a spot I don't think they want to be in, having to potentially go to a 7th game on the road against a team like that. So yeah, I would say out for the Western Conference 1 seed, I think it's paramount. I really do.
I would add one thing. I'm almost more prioritizing, the 1 seed, hoping to get the 1 seed if I'm the Thunder, more so I don't have to play the Nuggets and the Spurs, more so than having to worry about traveling to San Antonio, not having home court. Although I agree with Ryan, that is big. You do want home court advantage over the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals for sure. But I almost more so just don't want to even have to play both the Nuggets and the Spurs back to back. Like if you can let those two knock each other off, knock one of the other off, and then only have to face one. Although the Nuggets, with their schedule remaining and their issues they've been having, they very well could fall to the 4 or 5 seed, and maybe having the 2 or 3 seed, having the 2 seed wouldn't be the worst thing. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree. The Nuggets have really struggled as of late, and their schedule is really tough. They're also still dealing with Peyton Watson being out, Aaron Gordon's missed the majority of the season. I think he's only played like 20 something games. So it's that's a big point. If they're not going to be if the Nuggets aren't going to be able to get back to that 3 seed, then you don't want to have to play Denver in round 2 and San Antonio in round 3.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like you could hightail it and really, bust it for the 1 seed, and your prize is the Nuggets as the 4 seed
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
round 2. So yeah, and obviously like there's no way. I don't know like how they would play that. Let's say they had their game 82 was they kind of had control over whether they were the 1 or the 2, and Denver sitting there at the 4. I really wonder what how they would play that.
Yeah. That's a fascinating question.
Well, we know how they played it when the Philly pick was up for grabs. All right, well, put me down as being the one who will insist on underestimating Victor Wembanyama until it is too late. But I don't think this season is too late.
I will agree with you. I do think that regardless of whether the Thunder are on the road or at home, I would still favor the Thunder over the Spurs in a playoff series. The Spurs are still very young, and they do have some serious issues as far as shooting goes that I think will be amplified in the playoffs.
I will take the other side. I think they have, despite what the numbers say, I think they have real shooting in Champagny and Vassell. And we've seen Wemby be really good from beyond the arc. So yeah, I'll take the other side. I think that's why they're most dangerous, because Wemby allows them to stay home on defense on the perimeter, and they are so big and physical on the wings with Harrison Barnes, with Keldon Johnson. And again, they aren't immune to cold shooting nights, but they just lit Detroit on fire tonight. That the wings are why I are like their wings, and Castle's size and defense against Shai is why I'm more worried about San Antonio than just Wemby. The San Antonio thing for me is not just a Wemby thing. It is how athletic and big they are on the wings. And we've seen Oklahoma City struggle against big perimeter players before.
Yeah, and also for the record, I'm terrified of the Spurs deep down, but I'm also a little bit of me just I'm so excited to hate the Spurs for a playoff series again with it'll be so miserable, but I will say, that's one thing about Wemby. He's happy to fuel the rivalry, and that would be even more contemptible and annoying and maybe effective in a playoff series this season. So yeah, part of me is just like, the playoffs are supposed to be horrible and miserable and intense, and like to me that's what I think of when I think of the Spurs. All those win some, you lose some, but lots of pain and and suffering against San Antonio in the playoffs.
For all the talk about 3-point shooting, I just looked it up because I was curious. The Thunder are number 9 in the league in 3-point shooting, and the Spurs are number 23.
Wow. I did see today over the last 15 games, Oklahoma City ranks first in 3-point shooting.
That's the Isaiah
Pretty
Joe
wild.
Jared McCain effect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to note that Cray disrespecting our one true rival, the Milwaukee Bucks, talking about the Spurs being a rivalry.
The Bucks game didn't count.
Next time we're not scheduled on rivalry week to play the Bucks, will be the first.
Yeah.
Hey, if they still got Ousmane Dieng, just go ahead and count that in the loss column. You cannot beat Ousmane Dieng in a revenge game.
That's why it's coming back to me why the vibes just for me internally have been so down was the J-Dub re-injury right into a just non-competitive home game against the Bucks, where
against Ousmane Antetokounmpo
literally shreds the entire team.
Yeah, that was a grumpy game. All right. We got one quick segment to do before we head out of here. So part of the reason why I'm so chipper is because of the depth, and not all there's the Jared McCain being the latest addition, Nikola Topic coming, like he's not a serious like postseason player this year, but just an incredible story in his rookie year, and hard not to be excited about his future. But then also just a lot of the players that have been before who are just playing better. Isaiah Joe has been just fantastic lately. AJ Mitchell, total revelation. So, and even Casey Wallace having a crazy breakout game against Cleveland. So I want to do a quick game of over under on minutes per game in the playoffs. Because there's going to be some tough decisions. There's going to be some tough outs if the Thunder are healthy on some guys who are playing really, really well. So first up, I think this is an easy one, but first up, and I'll start with Brandon. AJ Mitchell, over under 22 and a half minutes played per game in this coming postseason.
Oh, that's tough. That's right about where I would put him. I think that AJ is going to be like the fifth or sixth most important player for the Thunder in the playoffs. That's how highly I think of him. And it seems like that's about the minutes that you would expect in the playoffs for the fifth or sixth best player. I'll actually put it a little bit. What's he averaging this season?
He's averaging 26.3 minutes.
Okay,
game.
I thought it was around 25. Okay, I will still put him over then. You usually play your best players more minutes in the playoffs. He's been one of the best players. Obviously, his role has obviously been bumped as well because of all the injuries, especially to J-Dub. But I will put him at the over there. I think he's that important.
Yeah, and 22.4 minutes is how many Casey Wallace played last year in the playoffs. So
nice.
I think that's a good
I see what you did there.
benchmark.
I could see about the same role.
Ryan, Jared McCain over under 10 minutes played in the playoffs per game. You can praise him first if we're going to dash everyone's hopes and dreams.
Yeah, we had McCain Palin way back when. We've got McCain Joe nowadays, and I'm buying. Golly, it's so hard to know. We're assuming everyone's healthy, right?
Yeah.
If we're assuming everyone's healthy, I'll say under. I could see him having a few games in round 1 and 2, probably more in round 1, where he goes over that number. But I think as the playoffs go on, it would drag that down below 10. I could see him even not appearing in some games. If they're in round 3 and 4, like I could see him just not playing in certain games. So yeah, I'll say if games where he doesn't play, if that counts as 0 towards the average, I'll say under.
Fair, very fair, and tough because he's been awesome. Of
there
course,
will be a lot of people wanting more McCain. I can already see that. During the playoffs, of we just need more McCain minutes, and there will probably be points where they just have to get another shooter on the floor. I could see that happening as well, and where he plays a lot more.
Yeah, and also he's just incredible to watch. Plenty of people compared him to kind of he's not Steph, but the type of off-ball relocation and motion that he just keeps generating, whipping up around the court or in the half court over and over. Just very fun to watch.
It feels like the first time Oklahoma City's had that specific type of player that just never quits moving. And I think Kaysen did a great job yesterday of being aware of him. And where in the first couple games, I think there was some spots where Wiggins, the ball came to Wiggins and then McCain goes to relocate and he just missed him. But the more this team gets to play with McCain, and I'm really excited to see him play with Shai and with AJ. I think there's going to be some even bigger McCain games, maybe not from a point scored, but an overall impact when he's out there with Shai and more of a traditional, offensive engine. I think next year I would say easily take the over on 10 minutes per game in the playoffs. I just think it's such a quick study on him with not that much time. So we'll see. I don't feel great about going under on 10, but I will go under.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's not going to shoot 50% from three in his Thunder career, but he's legit flamethrower. And through his first 6 games, his per minute numbers are, I just looked him up, are just about there with his rookie season. So he's basically looking like he did last year. And last year was uneven and up and down with the Sixers, but we're seeing what Sixers fans were so excited about for parts of last year's rookie season. Brandon, so 10 minutes per game is what Isaiah Joe played in last year's playoffs. I'm going to set Isaiah Joe's over under at 18.2 minutes per game in this coming postseason.
I think that I thought you were going to say 10 minutes again. I was going to go over for sure. Joe has been so good. Am I still on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so paranoid that I'm getting cut off all the time because you don't know. You have no idea if you get cut off or not. And you just feel like a dummy because you just keep talking and you're like in an echo chamber. So I'm paranoid about it now. I'm just going to keep talking until you guys tell me I sound like a dummy. All right. So Isaiah Joe, the way he has played, especially recently, the fact that in the playoffs you're going to need his shooting, his gravity, his spacing, the fact that you can put him out there with Jared McCain and you have 2 elite shooters. I think the way he's played, the offense he's brought, 18 minutes is still really, really tough. That's half a game. And the Thunder's so deep. And in the playoffs, you're going to play SGA, Dub, Chet, Hartenstein, so many minutes, and then giving minutes to Caruso, Kaysen, Lou. I'm going to say under, but not by much. I think 18 is a lot. I think there will be times where he plays over 18. But looking at the playoffs as a whole, I think it'll be under. But I do think that Isaiah Joe, when you're looking at the pecking order, I think he has risen from what he was last year. And if he keeps playing like he's playing right now, the rest of the season, he could get the over here because he could just force himself onto the floor because his offense is that good.
I have 2 questions for Brandon here. First, I'd love to just get some clarification on 18 minutes being half the game.
Yeah. Okay, you got me there. I was doing the Pro 36 in my head.
I'm just trying to protect you from what's coming next, brother.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
My other question to Brandon and Cray as well. I think at the beginning of the season we had our version of this team's top 7. I would love to know where you're at with this team's top 7 and if it has changed.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. I would say it is clearly obviously SGA, Chet, J-Dub. I think Hartenstein, Caruso, AJ Mitchell. I think that is your top 6. Any given night, I think the next could be Lou Dort. It could be Kaysen Wallace. It could be Isaiah Joe. I know that's not very clear, but I do think that the top 6 to me is pretty clear. Now, Lou, I feel bad for not including Lou Dort in that top 6. I think he could still be top 6. He hasn't played that way this season, but given the sample size of the previous 2 seasons, given what he did in the playoffs, given the fact that a defense and having a defensive stopper like him in the playoffs is so important, he definitely could be in that top 6 or in the top 7. But I think that the Thunder are just so deep that it's an argument between Lou Dort or Kaysen Wallace or Isaiah Joe. So I think it's kind of there's a clear top 9 to me is what I would say.
So I think I don't disagree with anything. I just find it really interesting that the team that won the title last year, we are in consensus that a player that didn't play for them in the playoffs last year, in AJ Mitchell, is without question inside the top 6.
Yes,
And that's wild.
that is.
Shout out to AJ, but I think I would lean. I still think I would lean Dort. I'm interested that you have just Caruso, no question.
Okay, that's a great point.
And I don't think you're wrong. I'm just again, these are fascinating things to me.
I just think that Caruso, what he did in the playoffs, and obviously Lou was huge in the playoffs. By the way, the Thunder don't win the championship, I don't think, without Lou Dort, considering what he did in that game 5 against the Nuggets. Like, they just don't win without it. And he was, obviously, his defense was incredibly important throughout the playoffs. And as I was saying, the top 6, I did consciously feel bad about not putting Lou in there because he probably should be in there given the sample size. I just think that Caruso in the playoffs was such a huge difference maker. And then I think AJ Mitchell, like his secondary ball handling and shot creation, especially with the bench and his shooting, just being able to do it all. Like having that reliable, like third shot maker and playmaker is so big. But yeah, it probably should be given to Lou, given the sample size and what he did in the playoffs, at least as a top 7. And you could argue Caruso. Caruso's game like went to another level in the playoffs. Like he was just so unbelievable. Obviously, what he did against Jokic stands out, but he was good throughout the playoffs. It's like he became like another player in the playoffs as opposed to what he was in the regular season.
Game 4 at Indiana, the final quarter, they don't win it without Caruso. I think it gets remembered, rightfully so, as Shai, he scored the last 15 points of the game for the Thunder, but to start that quarter, Caruso kept them in it and then made some defensive plays that only he can make. I totally agree that. Like it's weird with Caruso because we only see him. It feels like 3 or 4 games a month.
Yeah.
But when he's out there, it takes like 2 possessions before it's so obvious.
Yes. Yes.
What you're looking at is different than what anyone else can bring. It reminds you of what he did last year in the playoffs. But yeah, I was mainly asking to hear where you had AJ. And I agree with you. I think he's one of the 6 most important players, and the depth is crazy. Sorry to hijack the game, Craig. Please keep going. I love this game.
No, that's the point. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is there's all these, the depth is so insane. I was going to mention Caruso's averaging the fewest minutes played since his rookie season. He is like the case study of Thunder injury and rest and load management, right? Where we are under the assumption that he is not as significantly injury prone as his injury absences would indicate, and that he'll be able to ramp up and play with Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama and let alone just dogging the perimeter. I will say I'm a little I don't want to be premature, but I do worry a little bit about Caruso's long-term health and age. Mm-hmm. Just if I've got there's not many old guys, period, on the team. And, he's in the, him and Kenny, I think, in the over 30 club. Everyone talks about Lou Dort versus Casey Wallace versus the cheap contracts of Wiggins and Joe. And, I don't really want to do a round of, axe a Thunder player. But I do think, Caruso's age and health are significant, but I also think he's definitely top 6, especially in the postseason.
And we're not even considering Casey Wallace. It's crazy. It's crazy. He's so good. He would start on almost every single team.
Yeah, and then the last one, Ryan, Aaron Wiggins.
Yeah,
over under 13.8 minutes per game, which is how many minutes he played in last season's playoffs.
I remember asking our good buddy Rylan Stiles right before the playoffs. We were sitting watching warm-ups, and I asked him, how many minutes. I asked him the same question about Wiggins, and I think I asked him if it was. I said over under 8.5, and we both took the under on Wiggins, and so it's interesting to hear the number. It definitely felt like he was, even more present than that. Say the number again that you have it.
13.8.
That's what he was last year.
Yeah.
I'll say he plays. I'll say he plays between 14 and 14 and a half minutes per game. So just a slight over.
I'm about with you, and I would also. It's kind of my, well, not a cheat. I really think the answer to some of these crunchers, because all these players are up. AJ's playing like 20 more minutes per game than he was last year. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Joe's playing more. Jared McCain is pure additive minutes. Case and Walls, like across the board, a lot of that is leading to the injuries, but a lot of players are also playing very well in expanded roles and more minutes. So I think maybe it's not really the per game number that answers the question, but which players just get DNPs effectively for different matchups and whatnot. What do you think, Brandon? Do you think there will be a very strong, solidified, top 7-8 rotation, or would you expect to see guys kind of drop in and rotate back in into the lineup based on the matchup and how they're playing?
My guess will be the first round is likely against a team like the Suns or the Warriors or
Clippers.
I was going to say, or hopefully not the Clippers, because hopefully they don't make the playoffs if you're a Thunder fan. Hopefully they're in the lottery for that first round pick. Or possibly the Blazers. But, if it's the Suns, Warriors, Clippers, something like that, I think that a lot of guys are going to get into the rotation because the Thunder should, take care of those games for the most part. And, you can almost kind of rest guys a little bit in a first round series if you're like kind of a dominant team and the big favorite, whether it be garbage time minutes or whether it be like, okay, this game, we're up 10 after the first quarter. We can give some other guys some minutes. So the first round series, I think that, everybody will be getting to the rotation. But second round series in a second or third round, when you're playing a Nuggets, Lakers, Rockets, Spurs, the rotation gets shortened and you're playing your top 9 guys would be my guess for the most part. Mark will find ways to get guys minutes here and there, see if somebody can get hot, see if, McCain or Wiggins will come in, knock down some shots. Maybe they get an extended run. But I think that it'll go by the series and by the matchup and by how competitive those series are.
Awesome. And then a quick shout out. I feel like maybe the only player we didn't mention today was Chet Holmgren, or if we did, I forgot. Even Steven playing about as many minutes this season as he did last season and in the playoffs, right? Hovering just under 30 minutes per game. He's just taking fewer shots per minute, but making more of them this year. With his efficiency jumping up. So he's helping everyone else out. Everyone else is playing more and taking more of the shots, but he's still keeping up by scoring more without needing as many shots.
And I think some of those minutes decisions are back related just to protect him. He's questionable tomorrow night with that same back spasm designation that he's been listed with before this year. So I do think his number goes way up in the playoffs. I would imagine he's in the mid 30s. Do you know what, Cray, do you know what his number was in the playoffs last year?
Just under 30.
Yeah, I would imagine he gets up to 34, 35 minutes a game. I'm curious, 2 guys we haven't mentioned at all who played in, some last year was J. Will and Kenrich. And they love to take both starting bigs off the floor at the end of the first quarter. That's kind of where I think you're going to see Chet's minutes go up. I don't know how much they want to play. Jay Will is the lone big with Shai out there at the end of the first. I would love to see Chet out there. And I think if you put Chet out there or just leave Chet out there for the majority of the first quarter, you can steal some McCain minutes with the two of them. But like last year, not McCain, AJ played in game 1 of the finals, and we were all pretty confused when we saw him come in. And I say that to say I wouldn't be surprised by anything as far as who gets maybe randomly 4 or 5 more minutes than you thought they would on any given night. There's a lot of guys that are capable of playing, and I think Mark loves to be a bit unpredictable in that way.
It's crazy that the Thunder have Shai, who's the MVP, all-time great point guard, and then they have AJ Mitchell, Casey Wallace, Jared McCain, Nikola Topic. They have 4 players who all are, they're not yet and may not be, true starting caliber point guards, although some may argue with that with AJ at this point. They're all on rookie deals. Or AJ, who's not on a rookie deal, he's on an even better deal than a rookie deal. And they only Kaysen really was played much of a role, and he already played a good role as a rookie on a championship team. It's just like the youth is incredible, and youth at the championship level. So, Brandon, were you thinking maybe Shai against the Nuggets on Friday?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Shai against the Nuggets on Friday. It makes sense for a couple of reasons. It's a home game, and if the reevaluation is in exactly 1 week, then that would be on Thursday, the day off before that Nuggets game on Friday. It's Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets in town, still perceived as the biggest threat to the Thunder, still perceived as the biggest threat to his MVP candidacy. And he was reevaluated after the All-Star break. That was the first timeline. So you feel like he was probably close. And so if you're given another week, I'm not saying he's going to be back, but I would give it a legit coin flip odds that he'll be back for the Nuggets game. I see some people speculating maybe he'll be back against the Pistons on the second night of a row back-to-back. I don't think that's going to happen personally, but I could see him and or AJ being back against the Nuggets, and that would be huge.
I'm curious about the Nuggets game. How many more games can he miss before he's ineligible for MVP?
Oh, he's still got a good number.
I thought tomorrow was number 10, but I could be wrong. But he can miss 17.
Correct. Yeah. So
play on the road.
There's only
trip.
24 to go.
Yeah, if he doesn't play on the road trip, then he's at 10.
Yeah.
AJ is another one because AJ hasn't played since that Bucks game in Milwaukee. That was the game he got hurt in. The game that it's weird. Like AJ went off in that Milwaukee game, gets hurt at the end of it, and then J-Dub went off in Phoenix and got hurt at the end of that game.
And am I crazy? Did AJ Mitchell sprain his ankle?
He's been
before that, or has that just been?
No, it's been since then. And I would imagine, my only guess is it happened in practice or something. Do you know anything about the sprained ankle for AJ that popped up a few days ago?
No, we don't know about it. We haven't been given any sort of confirmation on what or when it happened. Just that he was also dealing with an ankle sprain, in addition to the ab strain. We don't know if it happened recently. We don't know if it happened during practice or what happened. But I'm encouraged by the fact that he's supposed to be evaluated around the same time as SGA. Getting those two guys back, even with Dub out, will completely change this Thunder offense.
It solves all the problems. Yeah. They don't need J-Dub to win these games. I think they've proven that. They started 24-1. They don't. J-Dub is not a necessity in the regular season. They've got Isaiah Joe playing out of his mind. Wiggins, McCain. They've got players they can play in that spot. Kenrich could play more, but Shai and AJ, they've got to get back.
All right. Well, hopefully we see him this week. Brandon, Ryan, thanks so much. To the listeners at home, make sure to follow Brandon Rahbar on Twitter as well. Follow Daily Thunder at Twitter. Whenever Daily Thunder's being funny or insightful or interesting, that means Ryan is the one tweeting usually. And when we're tweeting promotional things from the website, that's me. So
if you see things not being capitalized, it's your boy.
Yeah, so follow along to what should be some exciting games. We'll be tweeting, we'll be writing, we'll be rooting for a Thunder win, and hopefully see Shai, AJ, and eventually the rest of the Thunder back and healthy and playing as well they are right now. And this has been the Daily Thunder podcast. We'll see you next time.